August 2025. A silent alarm flashes inside Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force. Another unidentified submarine has slipped past the underwater sensors guarding the Tsushima Strait, once built to counter Soviet threats, now tested by China's most advanced subs. Every crossing reveals more about Japan's secret detection network. But why is Beijing risking exposure, and how close are we to a nuclear standoff brewing beneath these waves? The answer begins with a single chilling siren. A blip on the console. The watch officer's voice cuts through the hum of the operations center. Contact bearing 142, speed unknown. The Tsushima Strait just past midnight on August 14th, 2025. For a moment, every eye in the room locks on the sonar trace. The Maritime Self-Defense Force has trained for this for decades, but the tension never fades. The alert moves up the chain in seconds. A surface escort is already nearby. Akizuki class. Call sign was reported in the log. Above, a P1 patrol circles, ready to drop sonobuoys if the contact dives deeper. The Ministry of Defense issued a terse statement by morning. On August 14th, an underwater vessel of unknown nationality was detected navigating submerged in the contiguous zone northeast of Tsushima. Maritime Self-Defense Force assets monitored the vessel and ensured the security of Japanese waters. The release does not mention the second contact nor the shadowing destroyer detected on surface radar. It does not name China. But the pattern is familiar to every analyst. A mixed group, submarine below, surface ship above, threading the narrow passage where Japan's sensors are thickest. The official record logs the time, the bearing, the sequence of maneuvers. Off camera, a former Maritime Self-Defense Force officer recalls the protocol. First, classify the contact. Second, track its course. Third, prepare for escalation if needed. In the control room, the air is thick with unspoken questions. How did they get this far? What did they learn this time? The network held, but with every crossing, the margin narrows. In the aftermath of World War II, Japan's defense planners faced a new kind of threat. By the early 1960s, Soviet submarines began slipping through the waters east of Tsushima and south of Kyushu, probing for weaknesses in the Pacific's front line. For Tokyo and Washington, the stakes were clear. These narrow straits held the key to the open ocean. If adversaries could pass undetected, Japan's sea lanes, and by extension its post-war recovery, would be exposed. The answer took shape beneath the waves: an undersea system. Starting in the 1960s, teams of engineers and naval officers oversaw the installation of fixed hydrophone arrays along the seabed, stretching from the Tsushima Strait through the Miyako Channel and across the southwestern island chain. These sensors were designed to catch the telltale hum of submarine engines and the faint thrum of propellers, relaying acoustic data back to shore-based command centers. Early infrastructure records show the first arrays went operational by the late 1960s, with United States technical support and funding woven into every cable and relay station. This cooperation extended beyond hardware. The United States and Japan established protocols for real-time data sharing, creating a seamless network that could cue patrol aircraft or surface ships within minutes of a contact. The logic behind the system was simple. Geography favored the defender. Choke points like the Tsushima Strait, with its average depth of 140 meters and a narrowest width of just 65 kilometers, allowed sensors to cover nearly every possible route. By the 1970s, the backbone of Japan's undersea surveillance was in place, an invisible barrier built on Cold War urgency and alliance trust. The architecture that grew out of this era remains the foundation for Japan's detection capabilities today, even as new adversaries test its limits. The geography of Japan's southwestern approaches is not just a backdrop, it is the central actor in this contest. The Ryukyu, also called the Nansei Island chain, stretches like a natural barricade from Kyushu down toward Taiwan. Along this arc, 3 choke points shape the rules of engagement: Tsushima, the combined Osumi and Takara passages, and Miyako. The Tsushima Strait, wedged between Kyushu and the Korean peninsula, narrows to just about 50 kilometers at its tightest point. Its average depth of 140 meters leaves little room for a submarine to hide, especially with strong currents and shifting layers of water that complicate navigation. Every vessel passing through must contend with these constraints, and for the Maritime Self-Defense Force, that means fewer places to watch, but also fewer places for intruders to slip by unnoticed. unnoticed. Moving south, the Osumi and Tokara Straits mark the next gap, acting as gateways between the East China Sea and the Pacific. These are not as constricted as Tsushima, but the islands on either side still create a funnel effect, channeling submarine movement into predictable corridors. The real expanse opens at the Miyako Channel, about 300 kilometers wide between Okinawa and Miyako Island. On paper, this should offer submarines room to maneuver, but the seafloor tells a different story. Shallow shelves jut out from the islands, forcing deeper draft boats to hug narrow lanes where the water is deep enough for safe passage. The bathymetry, how the ocean floor rises and falls, creates acoustic traps and amplifies the effectiveness of fixed hydrophones and mobile patrols. Even in the widest strait, the geography compresses the contest into a handful of viable routes. This string of islands and straits forms a natural net. For Japan, it means every submarine must eventually pass through a choke point, where detection is not just possible, but likely. For China, the geography is both a barrier and a puzzle. Every crossing is a lesson, every detection a clue to how the network works. The terrain itself sets the boundaries of the cat and mouse game, defining where the silent struggle plays out beneath the waves. Detection starts with sound. Fixed hydrophone arrays, anchored deep along the seabed, listen for the low-frequency rumble of a submarine's engines or the sharp click of a propeller blade. Each vessel leaves a unique acoustic fingerprint, a pattern of noise shaped by hull design, machinery, and even the age of the bearings. Japanese operators compare these fingerprints to a classified database, narrowing down the origin in seconds. If the contact moves, patrol aircraft enter the scene. The Kawasaki P-1 and P-3C Orion sweep wide arcs over the straits, launching sonobuoys that float and listen, creating a moving web of sensors. Some sonobuoys passively record the faintest hum, and others send out active pings, bouncing sound off submerged hulls. Magnetic anomaly detectors, or MAD, ride in the tails of these aircraft. They sense the subtle distortion in Earth's magnetic field caused by a steel submarine passing underneath. While acoustic sensors can pick up a boat at distance, MAD is used for close-in confirmation, often the final step before a destroyer or helicopter moves to intercept. On the surface, Akizuki-class destroyers and their anti-submarine warfare helicopters, the SH-60K and SH-60J, coordinate with the aircraft above. Destroyers use both hull-mounted and towed sonar to track contacts, relaying information in real time. The result is a layered defense. Hydrophones below, sonobuoys and MAD above, and surface ships ready to respond. No single sensor is perfect, but together they close the gaps, forcing every submarine to play by Japan's rules in these narrow, contested waters. Each Chinese submarine crossing is more than a test of nerves. It is a carefully staged experiment. When a People's Liberation Army Navy submarine threads the Tsushima or Miyako Straits, its crew is not just trying to slip past undetected. They are watching, listening, and recording every Japanese move. The Ministry of Defense has acknowledged this pattern, repeated transits, each one probing for a different kind of response. Analysts call it a learning cycle. By varying speed, depth, and timing, Chinese commanders measure how long it takes for Japanese sensors to react, which assets respond first, and where the coverage appears thinnest. Every detection cue gives away a little more. A sudden vector by a P-1 patrol plane, or the shift in a destroyer's search pattern, reveals the likely location of a hydrophone array or the edge of a magnetic anomaly sensor. Over time, these observations allow Chinese crews to map acoustic shadows, zones where sensor coverage is weakest, or where underwater currents mask engine noise. Public records show these transits are not rare events. Since 2021, the Ministry of Defense has cited a steady recurrence, each incident logged but rarely detailed. For the People's Liberation Army Navy, each passage is a data harvest, turning Japan's intricate defense web into a source of intelligence. The cat and mouse game is not just about evasion, it is about learning how the mouse will run and how the cat will pounce. China's drive to secure its nuclear deterrent now runs straight through the straits Japan has fortified for decades. For Beijing, the breakout of SSBN ballistic missile submarines into the Pacific is essential. Each transit attempt is a test. Can a Type 094 or the next generation Type 096 slip past the net and vanish into deep water, ready to launch if called upon? The answer shapes the credibility of China's second strike capability. Japanese planners know this. In 2025, Tokyo approved a supplementary defense budget of 847.2 billion yen, channeling resources into new frigates, submarine upgrades, and expanded surveillance on the southwestern islands. Yonaguni, just 110 kilometers from Taiwan, now hosts mobile missile batteries and a rotating garrison. Its radar and sensor posts always alert for signs of a submerged approach. Behind closed doors, debate intensifies over propulsion. Should Japan acquire nuclear-powered submarines to match China's reach? The constitutional question hangs over every meeting. Article 9 still renounces war, but the pressure is mounting. Policymakers and local commanders face the same dilemma: how far to go, and how fast, when the margin for error narrows with every crossing. Every submarine passage redraws the boundaries of deterrence in Asia. With each silent crossing, the risk of miscalculation grows. Today, nuclear-armed submarines slip beneath contested waters, unseen but never unfelt. In this shadow war, vigilance isn't just strategy, it's survival. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.